Okay, welcome back, Quantitative Research Methods. We're moving to the fun stuff now. This is Module 10, and we're going to be talking in Module 10 about significance and hypothesis testing and the beginnings of our inferential statistics. So, let's do a little review. You recall the components of the research process. We've moved from the methodology section. We are now talking again about data analysis and some more review. I cannot overstate enough that the research question drives the design of the research. The design drives the variables and the measurement of the variables. The level of measure drives what types of analyses you are allowed to do. And this is going to become extra critical now that we are going to be talking about inferential statistics. So let's do a little review on nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. These are the levels of measure. You should recognize them by now, with nominal and ordinal being categorical, and interval and ratio being more numerical. And in SPSS calls interval and ratio level variables scale. And if you want to review levels of measure before we get into inferential statistics, that's a possibility, because you'll need to know these now like the back of your hand. They drive the analyses that you can perform. You've seen this slide before. This is the three components of data analysis. We've talked a little bit about data preparation. We have had an entire module on descriptive statistics, and we are moving beyond descriptive statistics now into inferential statistics. Inferential statistics are essentially underlined by probability theory and sampling theory. Probability theory is mathematics. It's mathematics, and it underlies the variety of topics in social science research, including sampling and survey research. So it underlies sampling, it underlies significance testing, so hypothesis and significance testing. It underlies some of the estimation techniques that we use in statistics. And I'll just throw one out there for you. Maybe you've heard it before, called maximum likelihood estimation. We're not going to be getting too deeply into that in this course, but it's an estimation technique in statistics. And so these two types of theoretical frameworks underlie what we can do in inferential statistics. With sampling theory, we can make sure that our sample is representative of a population so that we can generalize the results to that population. Inferential statistics uses both of these theoretical frameworks to create sampling distributions. Lots of them. And through these sampling distributions, create the statistics that we can infer from. Also, a piece of this together relies on the central limit theorem, which allows us to make inferences between samples and populations if the sample size is large enough. When we talked about sample size, we talked about sampling methods. The central limit theorem is based on, the distribution of a normal curve. And we talked a little bit about that when we talked descriptive statistics. It says that if the sample is large enough, then it will resemble the population. So the data of the population, and these are dots, under the normal curve, the sample will represent the population. That's what the central limit theorem says. So as our sample size gets larger, the researcher can be more confident that the sample represents the population and that the results from the sample will also be found in the population. It will match the relationship in the population. Another body of inferential statistics, so a set of inferential statistics, is called the general linear model. It's a family of statistics and we're going to be not necessarily focused on that terminology, general linear model, but we are going to be focused on some of the statistics that make up that family, including t-tests, analysis of variance, correlations, regression. They all fall under the general linear model, and that helps us make inferences. Recall that the best approach to the analysis will depend on the research question and how the data are measured. So our data analysis and the statistics that we run generally will answer these questions, these 5 important questions. Is there a relationship? Well, you can study, is there a relationship with descriptive statistics? And we have found ways to do that. And I've shown you ways to do that in SPSS. You can answer the question, how strong is the relationship between or among variables? What is the direction of the relationship? We've looked at cross tabulations to assess how strong the relationship is. We've looked at correlations to assess how strong and the direction of the relationship. With inferential statistics, we're going to look at the answer to this question and this question. What is the magnitude of the difference? And this is about, well, it's also called effect size between variables, magnitude of the relationship. And we are going to talk about, can we generalize the sample relationship to the population? So the sample results, the results of the relationship between variables that we're studying to the population. And then lastly, when we talk about regression, we're going to answer this question. Can we predict what will happen to the dependent variable given specific values of the independent variable? Well, right now we're going to focus on effect size, magnitude, and whether or not we can generalize the sample results to the population. Sampling theory tells us, does our sample represent the population? But it's the statistics and statistical significance that tells us whether or not we can generalize our findings to the population. So that's what we're going to talk about now, statistical significance. You probably have heard it before. It answers the question, can we generalize the findings outside the study? Provided that our sample represents the population, can our findings be generalized to the population with some level of certainty? That's what statistical significance is. It answers that question. So Okay, that's great. But what is it? It is a likelihood. It's a probability. Statistical significance is a probability or a likelihood. It is the likelihood we would find a relationship in a random sample if there is no relationship or no difference in the population. What? What does that mean? This ends this part of the module's presentation. Please move on to review the next part